Well, how are you going to follow that?
uh, Brutus, the barber beefcake.
Now,
um,
okay, now, do you get to the bottom of the question that is on everybody's mind about Brutus the Barber Beefcake and his life and career in this episode? Do you do investigative reporting? Do you delve deep and find out just exactly when Missy Beefcake became his manager? She suddenly popped up on TV last year
yeah.
as his manager slash wife,
hmm
and then all I've heard about her on Twitter and the internet since then is that Greg Valentine don't like her.
Well, I mean, she's definitely been a divisive personality to Brutus's friends. And this episode, one part of this episode is it does chronicle the decades-long friendship, of course, between him and Hulk Hogan, right? They broke into the business around the same time. Wherever Hulk goes, Brutus went.
Yeah.
And obviously, the episode also gets into the horrifying parasailing accident that almost totally obliterated his face. And I remember I was reading Brutus's autobiography at one point, and the chapter where he talks about what happened was so gruesome and visceral that it made me ill. It made me physically ill. Like how he described what happened, to his face and everything. And there's a part in there where, and we get into this to tie it back to the Hogan friendship, is like, I think Brutus's parents had recently passed away by that point in time. So like his sort of closest person in life, his next of kin, if you will, wasn't a family member. It really was Hulk Hogan. And because they wanted someone to sit bedside with him that had a recognizable voice to him, right?
Yeah.
And so they picked Hogan, and Hogan shows up and he's the guy taking care of him. And then there's that horrifying story where Hogan takes him out of the bed and walks him down the hospital hallway so he can, walk around a little bit, and his eyeball popped out, and like, okay, brother, let's put you back to bed, brother, whatever. And so it was just like, oh my God, so when we,
But now when Hogan tells the story, his brain fell out his eye
Right.
socket.
Right, exactly. And Harley Race lit it on fire. But no, when we did the Marty Jannetty episode last season, we interviewed Brutus and Mrs. Beefcake, and we were just like, well, this is a pretty interesting stuff going on down here. Maybe Brutus could be an episode, and maybe that could be something. And we started talking to him about it, and then my team was talking to me about it, like, could we do it? And I basically was like, well, we're definitely getting into the parasailing accident, and we'll talk about the friendship, but we will only do this if we find the man who reconstructed Brutus's face. And lo and behold, we found the plastic surgeon, who of course is a character. Of course he is. And so this episode kind of gets a little bit into if there's like a medical reality show version of Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, now wait a minute. Is there going to be a viewer discretion on this? I don't like that medical stuff going on my television.
There might be a picture or two, but not like, deeply graphic, long holding video footage or anything. But it's pretty crazy, man. It's definitely crazy. And
I'll tell you what. Well, you've seen the pictures that I've taken when you've been here of Hogan and Beefcake when they were in Memphis as the Terry and Eddie Boulder.
Yeah.
And Hogan looks reasonably, besides the fact that he's, somewhat balder and older, he looks reasonably like the same human being. But remember, old Eddie Boulder had that long, blonde, bleached.
Yeah.
He looked like he was the lead singer of Whitesnake.
Yeah.
And that, the physique and everything. And Brutus, the barber, has changed in 40 years, 45 years, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But did you also find the guy that either arrested him or turned him in for the transit authority fiasco?
Oh, man, I mean, it's kind of, how could you not touch on that if you're going to do this? So of course we did. Yeah, there is a little section in there talking about the anthrax scare, which
And we're not talking about the band Anthrax, since I just mentioned Whitesnake.
Right.
For those of you, and Brian and I referred to it on the program a week or two ago, but Brutus somehow ended up with a job at it was the subway, right?
Yeah, I
He's
think it
selling
was
tickets.
the Boston Transit Authority or whatever working. Yeah, is it in the
He's
the ticket
selling
taker.
tickets, and he leaves his cocaine in such a visible position that people called it in because they thought it was an anthrax fucking situation, and he shut down the fucking Boston subway system.
Right. Well, of course he calls it something else, but it was a white powdery substance that was left behind, and the worker, the person taking over his shift, came into the booth and saw it, and then that was of course the time when those things were, when the word anthrax was in the newspapers, and it was a whole shutdown. It was on the news. It was on the news. It was a big. He Mr. Magoo'd himself into that, shutting down all of the Boston Transit or whatever, which I love. That's just amazing.
Well, but again, if Missy had been his manager then, she could have got it straightened out.
Perhaps.
That's probably why he brought her on board, to take care of these public relations fiascos.
Perhaps.